This is Kate Baconsale. You're listening to Baconsale.
It's Baconsale with our very special guests, Kent, Joel, and Zack. Yay! It's time to play the music. It's time to light the lights. It's time to talk the Muppets on Baconsale tonight. It's time to test our vocals. It's time to sound just right. It's time to rank some Muppets on Baconsale tonight. Why do you always come here?
I guess we'll never know.
We hope it isn't torture
To listen to our show.
It's time to get things started.
Because it's so sensational, educational, confrontational, Muppetational.
This is what we call Baconsale.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. Hello,
Hey,
listener.
neighborhood. How's it going?
Very, very energetic intro. Welcome to Baconsale. I'm Joel.
I'm Kent.
And I'm Zack.
We'd like to thank you for listening to our last show.
Wow.
We're going to be giggly this whole show.
It's true.
It's already point of going on at this point.
Yeah.
That's just...
I think the show's over.
Yeah.
We're done.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening to our last show, our romantic comedies. We hope you had a lovely,
good.
lovely Valentine's Day and a romantic comedy episode that we gave you last week.
Yeah.
Help inspired you to do something for your significant other.
There was
Indeed.
actually some inspiration that I found in the social media comments on Facebook. Steve Hansen said, "I was most gratified to catch my wife listening to this episode." Can you believe it, guys?
Wait,
She's
I've never listened.
The romantic comedy episode. He listens a lot.
I had to find out what she was laughing at. She said it's a refreshing break from true crime podcasts. I've been working on this for 7 seasons.
To get her to listen for the first time.
Yeah.
And I have it on good authority because I do monitor the social media pages. She liked our page. Thanks, Carrie.
Hey, we're going to
Appreciate
do a
that.
rom-com show every month.
Yeah, if we get Carrie to listen more. Yeah, definitely.
Now, Alicia Bass on Twitter says, "I'm not going to lie, I'm having some trust issues with you guys right now, Baconsale. You don't like Jack Black and Kate Winslet in The Holiday?"
That was Joel.
To me, their
You
romance
agreed.
is more genuine than Cameron Diaz and Jude Law. Which, that's not a great example, but
Low bar.
I see where you're going with that.
Yeah.
And then I need to bring up something that we did participate in on Twitter. Sam Ma said, "At Kenny3DD, you have a butt cut. Your long hair is powerful, but remember, with great power comes great responsibility."
Because in the image for the episode, Kent was sporting the Hugh Grant kind of golden arches thing going on
And
there.
it started something pretty crazy. Thank you, Sam, and thank you, Scott, for joining in. And thank you to my fellow Baconsalians.
Yes.
Yes.
I had to participate.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, that was...
So we all,
You
we all
had to
displayed our
participate.
hair.
I said, hurry and get on there.
My hair dried even weirder than the photo, and then the next morning was very strange bedhead.
Oh, by the way.
Yeah.
Happy birthday, Mike Erickson.
Hey, happy birthday, Mike.
From all of us here at
birthday.
Baconsale and from Lindsay, we wish you a very happy birthday.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Have fun.
But that's not what we're talking about today. What are we talking about today, Zach?
We're talking about the Muppets! Yay!
We all did Muppet arms.
Which is, you have to envision that the stick is in your wrist, and so
Yeah.
your hands just go limp.
Yeah. So we were doing this for a number of reasons. I've actually had on the wish list of shows a long
Forever.
time a Muppet show.
Yeah.
I do enjoy the Muppets very thoroughly. But as of February 19th, all 5 seasons of the Muppet Show are coming to Disney Plus. And
All
so
right.
this was a perfect time to talk about the Muppets.
I'm so excited for that, too, because I've watched YouTube clips and everything, but it's going to be nice to just see the show on streaming.
It's funny because in our planning, when we talked about the show, hey, Muppets are coming up. We should do that. Oh, we should watch every Muppet movie.
Which,
Oh, no. And
no.
it was about a month and a half ago, maybe a month ago.
no?
I said, oh, no.
And I was like, oh, yeah.
You're like, I've already watched them yesterday. And so what we do in this show is we're going to give some history on the Muppets, but we watched every single Muppets movie.
We did.
And we're going to rank them.
Now, we should clarify, when we say every single Muppets movie, we are only including the
We
8
went above and beyond,
the
okay?
8 theatrically released movies, which includes The Muppet Movie, Great Muppet Caper, Muppets Take Manhattan, the Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, Muppets from Space, The Muppets, and Muppets Most Wanted.
Those are the theatrical
Those
releases.
are the 8 theatrical ones. We
Yeah.
also included the 2 made-for-TV films, It's a Very Muppet Christmas Movie and The Muppets Wizard of Oz.
Why?
We'll get to that.
That's a great question.
We did this.
No,
list
but
does
why?
not. But this list does not include other television specials that weren't like films, and it doesn't include the direct-to-video ones.
Right.
We
Kermit
went with
Swamp
kind
Years
of
or
like
whatnot.
we kind of limited to these 10 movies. Which 10 movies for Baconsale? Come on, that's child's play.
Yeah.
Twice as many as Twilight, Joel.
It's true, but it's 1/5 as many as the Hitchcock movies we watched.
We're going to rank here, and much like we did in the Nolan show when I kind of took over and I said, my ranking is a definitive ranking, and that's it. What we're going to do is we're going to let Joel guide us through the
Because-
top 10 Muppet movies, and Zach and I will then kind of be like, well, I put it here or I put it here.
Yes, because as it should be obvious by now, I'm the biggest Muppet fan in this
Yeah.
room right now.
Yeah.
I've loved the Muppets for a long time, ever since I was a kid, and I had like plush
I think we
figures
all
of
love the
them.
Muppets since we were a kid, and then at some point it maybe stopped.
It never stopped.
Yeah, for you.
Because that's the thing is, I really enjoyed watching these movies again. And gentlemen, I want to thank you
For?
for giving me the best thing. No,
Thank you for being a friend.
I want to thank you because I did this challenge of watching all these Muppet movies with my children. I could have
Challenge.
I could have gone super fast and watched them all in
Like
a
I
couple
did.
days. Yeah,
Yeah.
because I could have, and I've seen most of them already. There's only a couple that I hadn't seen. But I was like, you know what? I want to do this with my kids because I want to see how my kids react to the Muppets if they still hold up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I want to thank you, because of this challenge, my little 2-year-old, all my kids, but like my little 2-year-old has started talking about how she loves Kermit and Fozzie
Yay.
and Miss Piggy.
That's
So
so
the
great.
propaganda has already begun.
yes,
Yeah.
because my wife, who didn't watch the Muppets as a kid, is not a big Muppet fan. In fact, she finds Miss Piggy absolutely annoying.
She is.
You know, most do because she's the worst, but go on.
Well, yeah,
She's the worst.
So I've been kind of like, I want to instill this love for Muppets because it is. The Muppets are just this joyous, pure joy, fun act.
Well, you see
can
that
enjoy.
they were out and they were big before you were ever born.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right? But you kind of adopted into it a little bit.
Wait, you guys weren't born then?
You
shut
stop
up.
that right now.
Yeah, how many of these Muppet movies were made after you were born, Zach?
I think Muppets Most Wanted was made after he was born.
I think so.
Yeah,
That's
pretty
basically it. Let's bring it back. So,
Absolutely.
Actually, I want to hear your guys' Muppet feelings, as I am,
Yeah.
absolutely in
So
love
you're
with
a
Muppets.
huge super fan, love it.
Love the Muppets.
Yeah. How about you, Kent?
I was raised with them as well,
Yeah.
and I have always loved the
You were
Rainbow
raised by
Connection.
Muppets?
Yes. Kind of strange.
Hey, Kent, enjoy dark versions of Batman. Yay!
It was always Sam the Eagle, and he was always a little bit rude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You're all weirdos.
I love the Muppets, and I remember in elementary just watching the Muppets all the time for some reason because they would show movies a lot in class. I absolutely devoured it.
Public schools, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, that's a good education right there.
They are.
Obviously, Sesame Street I was a big fan of, and so I grew up loving to watch Muppets and puppets.
Yeah.
And then something happened. I think I kind of grew out of it as I got more cynical. And there are some of these that truly still ring nostalgic for me.
Sure.
And I can see where they're actually more funny than when I was a kid because it's more dad jokes than anything else.
Yeah.
Well, but some of them are more lame than they've ever been before. And as a kid, I could tolerate it because it's an electronic babysitter.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I feel. I'm kind of split at this point.
Really?
Yeah. Although I will say, after watching as many Sundance movies as I did, the Muppets are such like a nice blanket.
So after like that
Yeah.
dark
I
Sundance
was like,
experience,
oh,
you're
hey,
like,
Muppets.
oh,
Yeah.
some rainbow sherbet to help
Yeah.
you feel better.
Precisely. What about you, Zach?
I have always been a Muppets fan. I really like them, but
And you're very late into the game. Like you
Yeah.
are, I hate to say this, but you were probably born after
I was
Jim
born
Henson
after
died.
Jim Henson passed, or right about that time. Yeah. Because
You were the reincarnated spirit of Jim Henson.
he passed in 1990. He grew great facial hair. So
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But yeah, so I definitely came into the, we'll say like the Brian Henson days where his son kind of took over, and definitely have a huge fondness for Muppet Christmas Carol. I mean, that's always been in my rotation for Halloween. No, for Christmas.
It's actually a Halloween movie.
It might as well be.
It's a ghost story.
Yeah. And so I have a more modern take on the Muppets. I even watched the rebooted series, the
Muppets
Tonight.
Yeah.
I remember watching that in it, when it came out in the 90s. And I really liked that and connected with that. And so then when I saw like clips or episodes of the old Muppet Show, I was like, oh, it's like Muppets Tonight.
Yeah. Funny how that works like
Yeah,
that.
right. So I definitely had a more modern take, but I'd seen the movies; they had been on. My folks had watched them, so I had definitely seen them or seen parts of them. And so as I was rewatching them, I would have that thing where I remember it as it's happening, and so it's made it so I was like, okay, this is somewhere in my subconscious, but definitely not in the forefront. And it was nice.
Would you say, I was going to say, out of the 10 movies you watched, how many have you seen before?
I had seen, in all honesty, like enough to tell you what's going on. I had probably only seen 3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Like the 90s ones, right? So Muppet Treasure Carol.
Muppet Treasure Carol. Wow. Is that the reboot of the
Muppet
reboot?
Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, and then the Jason Segel one I had seen. And then I'd seen bits and pieces of the other ones. I'm like, okay, so I think this one is where there's a road trip and they need to save a theater.
That's every single one of them.
Single one. Okay, so they blur together.
Oh, like the Mission Impossible movies where he gets disavowed.
Precisely.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
the Bourne series.
Or the Bond series where he's gone rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say that, how many have you seen?
7.
7.
7 of the 10 we'll talk about, and 2 specifically I would have never planned to watch.
Okay.
But 1 I didn't watch, and I think there's a good reason for it now.
We may be in the same boat then, because I would say I've seen 7 before, and there's only 3 that were new to me.
But it's interesting because you and we grew up in a time where Muppets were still slapstick. There's a lot of satire to it. Whereas Zach grew up and they were adaptations. Like you grew up in the Treasure Island Christmas Carol days, and we grew up in like the traditional Muppets meta commentary days.
Well, and Kent, you were born when the Muppet Show ended. And so it's interesting to me just kind of how like you and I were both like post Muppet Show.
Yeah.
And then we still like I still have seen episodes of the Muppet Show and all that. But we could say that for a Muppet Show, guys. But right now we're talking about Muppet movies.
We should do a Muppet Show bacon bit when we watch the whole series, you and I.
But I want to bring it back. Bring it back. Way back to
the
1955.
Yeah, boy.
Jim Henson was 19 years old.
Wow.
If I did my math correctly. And he created the Muppets, which are, if you don't know what the Muppets are, I'm going to read the definition here. The Muppets are an ensemble cast of puppet characters known for absurdist, burlesque, and self-referential style of variety sketch comedy.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Jim Henson, he came up with this idea when he was around 19, and he says that he coined the term Muppet from marionette and puppet, although he later recanted that.
Yeah, he later was like, no, it was a weird word.
Just a silly word.
Yeah.
But it started on a short-form television series called Sam and Friends, which aired from 1955 to 1961.
It was like a local channel, right?
Yeah, in Washington, D.C.
D.C.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it's basically Sam, a bald-headed, big-eared human. Then he escaped reality with these puppety friends.
It was today's special, right?
Kind of, except no mannequins.
And Sam was interesting because his face was and his head was actually wood, where we know the Muppets of being this like felt fabric thing, but his head was actually wood, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, and his friends included characters such as Yorick, Harry the Hipster, Professor Madcliffe, Chicken Liver, and a lizard-like character named Kermit, who later evolved into Kermit the Frog.
There we go.
And he created. I saw this interview you sent me, Zach, that he created the original Kermit from a jacket his mom had.
He had his mom had a turquoise jacket, and he took the sleeve of a jacket and some of the material, and then cut a ping pong ball in half and made the rudimentary Kermit the Frog.
And if you go watch these clips of Sam and Friends, they're like these old black and white clips, and it's the puppets lip syncing to popular songs of the time.
Yeah, that was almost the entirety.
We would totally
of the
despise it.
But that's totally like YouTube content of today, though.
That's all TikTok is lip syncing to other popular songs.
Yeah, and so they would do that, and then they did some later on. They did some formal sketches where they like spoofed popular television shows, but it was very just basic.
Yeah,
but it was largely parody comedy in a sort of vaudevillian way.
Yeah. And this was actually it mentions here. This is the first puppet media to not incorporate like a stage and like a proscenium arch, like where they're encapsulated, and to use the TV as the proscenium arch. Like this is like the first time that puppets were like they're on TV, and that's the box you're working through.
Yeah,
and I think it's a great idea. That I'm glad they did that because it makes so much sense. So then, near the end of the run of this, he started doing Sesame Street,
right? Which
was 1969 to present. It's still going on, and this was definitely more children.
But nobody's watching it because it's on HBO now. So
yeah. We watch clips, on HBO.
It's funny because Jim Henson, he's not, I wouldn't say he likes adult humor, but he can take it dark when he wants to, right?
Right.
And he has a very broad range of comedy.
He does.
And so I know Sesame Street was great for him, but I think he also wanted something a little more clever.
Yeah. Well,
right?
so, they had the Muppets. Rolf the dog was appearing regularly on the Jimmy Dean show, I think it was, or something like that. And they had Kermit appearing on some talk shows, like in between this time. And
and Kermit was on Sesame Street.
Yeah,
Kermit was like the adult, one of the adult characters, but he was a Muppet.
Yeah,
but he was be interacting with the characters on Sesame Street.
And so then they started being like, okay, well, we have this Sesame Street for kids. Why not do a little more a comedy geared more towards adults? And that was the Muppet Show, which ran from 1976 to 1981.
So to Kent's point, it was almost like the Muppet Show was counter-programming to Sesame Street, and especially when Kermit the Frog was on it, it was like Kermit was
it's like a spin-off show
during the
right?
day,
yeah.
And then he kind of got out his adult humor at night.
Well, super adult humor.
And here's the part that struck me as kind of funny because they were distinguishing themselves from Sesame Street as, hey, we're something different. Still clean, still positive. But the two
Maybe more
television
violent.
pilots they had in 1974 and 1975. So this is just before the Muppet Show began in 1976. They had two television pilots one was called The Muppets Valentine's Show, and the other one was called The Muppet Show, Sex and Violence.
SEX and Violence, please.
Yes.
Yes.
But and it's not as salacious.
Because they were trying to like mock the fact that in that time SEX would sell on TV.
Yes.
And so, yeah, that was the joke.
And it wasn't salacious at all. In fact, the half-hour variety special is about the Muppets talking about the proliferation of sex and violence on TV at the time.
I found it really interesting that it wasn't really picked up in America, that it actually, like, over in England, they were like, actually, we like this concept of a show. Here's a bunch of stars that can be on your show. And it wasn't brought to the States until they put it into syndication.
Because, they tried to get it on ABC, which I don't know if it was owned by Disney then, but they tried to get there, and they're like, no. And like you said, then this English producer is like, we want that. And they started doing it over there, and then it caught on and got brought over here.
And that's just so interesting to think that the show was filmed overseas and not in LA or New York or like it was made in England.
Which is, explains the Great Muppet Caper so well.
There we go.
But yeah, and then the Muppet Show gave us characters like Miss Piggy and Fuzzy Bear and Gonzo. They became more regulars when the Muppet Show began. And the Muppet Show, like I said, it was very popular. It was nominated for 21 Primetime Emmy Awards during its run and won 4, including Outstanding Variety Series in 1978. Because of the success of the Muppet Show, they were able to do the Muppet movies, starting with the Muppet movie in 1979. And so they did a couple movies there in the early 80s, and then Muppets kind of went away for a little bit. They did Fraggle Rock, which...
Down with Fraggle Rock.
Yeah, you know what that is. Okay. That came in the later 80s and things like that. But the funny thing is like, in 1989, way back in 1989, they had entered negotiations with Disney about Disney acquiring the Muppets. And they started working towards it. And there was some back and forth of like Disney saying, we want to own the rights to the characters. And Jim Henson's like, that's a deal breaker. You can't own the rights to the characters.
You can have the distribution rights of the content.
Disney was willing to purchase the Muppets for $150 million. But sadly, that was actually the year before Jim Henson died. He passed away in 1990. And that kind of halted discussions of merger, of any sort of acquisition for a while. But Disney did license characters from the Muppets. They appeared in some Disney theme parks and specials and things like that. And then the Muppets did Muppets Tonight, which you mentioned, from 1996 to 1998. Wasn't as successful, but still brought it to the forefront. And then after all this time had passed, 14 years after the initial negotiations, Disney finally acquired the Muppets intellectual property for $75 million.
In what year?
In 2004.
Wow.
So that's when Disney...
So it got devalued a little bit, but they're like, we can do something
almost
with this.
by half. It's kind of crazy.
And they didn't buy all of Henson's productions. Like, they only got the Muppets.
They didn't get Sesame Street. They didn't get
Dark
Fraggle
Crystal.
Rock. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Muppets have had a huge impact on many people. They've got a Hollywood Walk of Fame. They've won Academy Awards. Like, it really is...
Immediately recognizable.
Yeah.
Very identifiable characters.
But the thing I find most fascinating, I wanted to bring this up because we kind of talked about it already, is how they feel real.
Yes.
Like, you feel like Kermit the Frog is a character. Like, they were doing... Zack sent a clip of Kermit the Frog on Johnny Carson.
Yeah.
And he's not a ventriloquist. He's just talking behind Kermit. Like, he's giving an interview.
Jim Henson, yeah.
Jim Henson, yes. Jim Henson's there sitting, holding Kermit. But Johnny Carson is talking to Kermit. And I found my own eyes drawn towards Kermit. I wasn't even paying attention to
Well, it's
Jim
not only
Henson.
that, he can talk. I mean, I guess that's what a puppeteer, a ventriloquist does, if we're going to be very professional here.
Yes.
Which Jim Henson wanted to be called a Muppet performer, not a Muppeteer or puppeteer or anything like that. But it is the characters interacting with Jim Henson as he's speaking as well. And it's so fascinating because they feel real. Kermit is basically... Kermit even appeared in front of Congress before.
Yeah. Which is weird to think about.
And there's multiple things that they do to sort of support that outside of just the movies. But even within the movies, they're very meta. But outside of them, if they're doing a release of a new movie, they'll do a press tour like they're an actor.
Yeah.
They'll go on and host, like the Muppets have hosted Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
The Muppets sang with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir.
Yeah.
Like,
It's weird, though, because it's not weird. It's actually good because they maintain their brand by maintaining certain rules and regulations. Like, I know there's, we'll talk about this later, but there's a movie in which they wanted to make a joke about them being puppets. And they were like, nope, we don't do that on the Muppets. We have to treat them as if they're real people, like real characters.
Yeah.
But it's just fun. It's fun to see. And they really are. I say this knowing how corny it sounds, guys.
This is a love letter from you. It's fine.
But I've always kind of envisioned Baconsale as a Muppet style show.
Go on.
Where we are catering to adults. We are talking about adult type things.
Yeah.
But we keep it so the family can enjoy it, so kids can enjoy it as well.
And we did call our first episode Baconsale, SEX, and Violence. So
We did. That was unaired. But yes.
Unaired. Yeah. But the thing I love is, like, you look at this crew. Like, obviously, we've talked about Jim Henson, but the original crew, and even the crew that does it now, is still so worthy of praise.
Yes.
But these people, and generally, it was like, what, 5 guys to start this
Yes,
off, and
so-
each one had about 10 characters each.
I'll go off real quick. So Jim Henson, obviously Kermit the Frog, but he also plays Ralph the Dog, Dr. Teeth, Waldorf, and the Swedish Chef.
Perfect.
You get Frank Oz, who, when Jim Henson first approached Frank Oz to join the team of the Muppets, Frank Oz was like, sorry, I'm really committed to my high school here. Because they was that young when they started out.
Jeez.
But Frank Oz does Miss Piggy, Fozzie Bear, Animal, Sam the Eagle, and also he does Yoda, which isn't a Muppet, but it's just funny to see Miss Piggy and Yoda are the same person. That makes me laugh.
He's a Muppet with Jedi powers. It's fine.
You get Jerry Nelson, who did Floyd Pepper, Crazy Harry, Robin the Frog, Lou Zealand, and Camilla the Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
You get Richard Hunt, who did Scooter, Statler, Janice, Sweetums, and Beaker. Which is funny,
awesome,
because the funny thing is, like, I hear these names, I immediately have pictures in my head, but I may just be saying names to you guys, to the listener, I'm not sure. And then Dave Goltz did The Great Gonzo, Zoot, and Dr. Bunsen Honeydew.
So good.
These 5 people have, like, this whole, it's like The Simpsons, honestly, where they have these whole host of characters they play, and they all feel distinct from one another. And, like, you see them talking to each other, and it's not a big deal, but then you suddenly realize, wait, that's one person playing 3 characters. But
So much talent.
One thing that I really like, though, is because of the sort of the way it's designed. You have people playing these other characters. It's allowed these characters to live on over time.
Yes.
So Kermit, for example, Kermit has now been played by, we're on his 3rd actor.
Right.
Originally played by Jim Henson, and then when Jim Henson passed, it was taken over by...
Steve Whitmire? Is that who it is?
Yeah, Steve Whitmire. He took him over in the 90s, and then he actually was fired in 2016, 2017. And then Matt Vogel took over for him. So now we're on our 3rd actor for Kermit, but that's allowed Kermit to live on.
it is, but at the same time, I have to admit that after Jim Henson passed away, and the first movie that came out after was Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
And I went, that doesn't sound like Kermit.
And
like,
even more so if you
Is it
listen
like
to
Mickey Mouse voice actors for you as well?
Well, Mickey Mouse, I haven't noticed as much.
Okay.
if you listen to the current voice of Kermit, it's pretty different. He's a
It
lot
is,
lower.
Yeah. Whereas Miss Piggy, I was surprised when I found out when Frank Oz stopped doing it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's not Frank Oz anymore. It sounds just like him.
It's a little shocking that your kids have enjoyed it so much, because you look at the original Muppet movie, and we're going to talk about each movie at length, but there are cameos that were relevant at the time, and they were big cameos at the time, and kids these days would be like, why? It doesn't matter. I don't care. That person's not being funny, but it's funny because they showed up in a Muppet movie.
And even me watching these, I'm like, ooh, this feels like a moment where that's somebody who I should know, but I don't.
Every movie becomes immediately dated, but they've still remained popular.
Well, that's the funny thing, too, is you watch the old Muppet movies now, and my kids are watching and just going, it's just another person being silly. Whereas I'm like, that's Bob Hope, that's Steve Martin. Slade Martin. Whereas, like, I was getting bugged at the newer ones because I was like, wow, that is a really cheesy cameo. And I went,
It's the same, though. Well, I think these movies are interesting because you have to have your brain in a certain place to watch them.
I feel like there's some of these where they're scraping the bottom of the barrel, even at the time, for cameos.
You mean Manny from Modern Family?
But they make a joke about that.
Sure.
Where he says, and who are you?
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a time when they were getting better stars. Like, I feel like it was kind of the A-listers back in the day, and then they kind of got the C-listers, and now they're, back to B-listers now or something like that.
All right, I think it's time to rank.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the movie. So, like we mentioned, this is Joel's passion. And so much like we did if you listen to our Christopher Nolan show, we're going to have Joel be our constant. We'll follow the movies through him. So we'll just start with his number 10.
My definitive ranking.
Your definitive ranking.
And then you guys give your superfluous opinion.
Kind of like you did with Nolan. Agreed.
Sure.
Sounds good. Hey, it's a fair trade.
So maybe Joel's 10 is my number 1. And so we'll talk about...
Because the passion is all the way over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we're going to agree more times than not.
I agree.
Especially at the top of our list. I mean, I would guess, at least looking at my own, the top 3 I could probably swap out. It could be whatever.
I don't know. My top 3 are pretty solid. It's beyond that.
I can't
get
wait.
kind of fuzzy.
Let's get rid of these bottom of the barrel movies.
Let's just start.
Let's just jump
What's your
into
number
it.
10, Joel?
So my number 10 is one of the TV specials.
Naturally.
I had some debate of which one to put one here, but I put
There's a right answer.
it's a very Muppet Christmas movie.
And you gave the wrong one.
You gave the wrong one.
It's a very Merry Muppet Christmas movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is not the wrong. This is the definitive ranking.
No, you're wrong.
So
But go ahead.
this came out in 2002, and here's the synopsis. 'Twas a night before Christmas, and the Muppet Theater is in danger of being torn down, but with hilarious send-ups of just about every holiday movie ever made, the Muppets discover what matters most is their love for each other.
No.
This has the Muppets. It has David Arquette.
No, David Arquette, he's talking to God, who is Whoopi Goldberg.
No, the boss. The boss.
They never call it God. Yeah.
Okay. But they're watching through a screen Kermit be really sad, and Kermit want to eventually get to a point where it's a wonderful life.
And honestly, it's just a framing device to go to commercial.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is definitely set in the time because you have cameos from Joan Cusack, Matthew Lillard.
Well,
as
Joan
a
Cusack is
Frenchman.
the villain. It's
She
not a
is, she
cameo,
is.
yeah.
William H. Macy, Whoopi Goldberg, and the cast of Scrubs.
Yeah, Matthew Lillard's a French guy. That's great.
It was weird. And this was made for TV.
You can tell.
It really is like, this is really kind of bottom of the barrel for me. And the reason I chose this one is because I felt like this was scraping the bottom of the barrel, both story-wise and character-wise and cameo-wise. And the one thing that really bothered me was that Kermit was not Kermit.
No.
He was bitter and cynical. And don't be wrong, Kermit's kind of a wet blanket sometimes.
Right.
But this one just felt like he was being mean. And I'm like, Kermit is never mean.
This to me didn't feel like a Christmas special until the last 30 minutes. In fact, it was just another let's save the theater type movie.
Yeah.
And in fact, the Christmas songs don't even come till later because like we have like parodies of Moulin Rouge songs.
That was weird.
Yeah. And the songs are...
Kermit drinks funny green root beer.
Yeah.
Which is absinthe.
Yeah.
And I did laugh a few times at this. They talked about corporate synergy and they said it's out of control. And then you hear the NBC chimes in this movie because this aired on NBC as well.
Yeah.
And then you see like a cameo by the Who's from The Grinch Who Stole Christmas around that same
But
time.
they don't mention it's the Grinch.
Right.
Because Fozzie gets painted green and they're like, he looks like the guy that took Christmas.
But it's
they
funny
can't really
because
say
they're
it.
all rhyming, and then one guy goes, "I can't rhyme. Can't we just go beat him up?" And I was like, "That's kind of funny." I laughed twice.
No, but the thing is, like, even though I'm putting this at the bottom of the barrel, there were some parts that made me laugh. Almost every Muppet movie, there's something that made me laugh. Also, there's a random cameo montage where they just go through all these local celebrities like Kelly Ripa and Molly Shannon and Triumph.
Kermit's
the
trying,
insult comic
to,
dog.
Kermit's trying to call his friends that he knows to come host their show they're putting on.
Joel, this may be a worthy 10. I put it at 9 because you have Scooter dancing in a cage seductively.
That's on the
And
parents' guide. It says that.
It's not okay.
No. Well, also they say at one point they make a joke about making reference to a topless nightclub.
Yeah.
And I was like, in a Muppet movie? Are you kidding me? There's also an extended scene with a generic crocodile hunter.
Yeah.
Which was pretty terrible.
From what I understand, the actual crocodile hunter was busy. But there's a whole scene of innuendo with Pepe and Joan Cusack.
Yes.
Yes. It got a little
it's
weird.
weirdly adult in places.
Yeah.
A few of these movies have those moments.
Yeah.
But they make reference to Fear Factor. There's Riverdance. Like, this is very much that time. And that's why I put it so low, because not only is it not that great of a Muppet movie, but it's very
It's
dated.
irredeemable.
And that kind of bothered me.
Yeah.
This was the first Muppet movie, by the way, to be rated PG by the MPAA.
This one didn't bother me. I thought it was fine. I put it at 9 as well.
Okay, so you two agree.
Just because from a quality standpoint, objectively, it is not as high a quality a movie as
But it's
everything
not
else
the
on the
worst
list.
one ever
But
made.
it's if you think about it as a holiday TV special, it's completely fine. Like there's nothing that wrong with it.
But the problem is, I didn't like the framing of the angel part of it. Like, it just didn't it didn't fit for me
At all.
I understand they were going for It's a Wonderful Life, but the way they did it, it just felt weird. Like them,
It's called padding.
Well, yeah, David Arquette
Right.
and Whoopi Goldberg sitting on a couch watching a TV screen for extended periods of time, and then you forget that they're even doing it. And it jumps back to him like, oh yes, there's this whole story.
With
Again,
CG butterflies and everything, too.
Yeah.
you know, it just cut to like when they got back from commercial, they were on the
Let's
couch.
catch back up with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah, this is what's been going on. And then for some reason, randomly, as the plot's basically like reached its conclusion,
Well, and there's
they
even-
do a Kermit the Frog Wonderful Life thing.
Yeah, well, and there's a funny part, for example, when Kermit has never been born because it's a Wonderful Life, and they have a Doc Hopper's fried frog legs store, and I went, that's a funny reference. I hate that it's wasted in this movie.
Same. Yeah.
Sure.
So,
Well, we've already spent
there's
far too much
there's
time
a
talking
Yoda
about
cameo
this.
too, which made me laugh.
Yeah. Okay,
kind
Joel,
of a Yoda cameo
what's your number 9? Please tell me it's the other right choice.
because it's the other TV special. It's Muppets Wizard of Oz.
Atrocious.
It wasn't good.
That is like overselling it.
But it's the Wizard of Oz with Muppets. But the problem
It's
is
the Wizard of Oz with Ashanti.
that's what I was going to say. They put all their chips in on Ashanti being a good core actor for this movie.
This movie starts, and I thought I was watching a VH1 music video.
So picture a Wizard of Oz, the Wizard of Oz,
Modern
But-
day.
modern day.
Yeah.
And
why?
Dorothy doesn't really want to go home. She just wants to be a pop star.
No, that's the thing. They take out
Yeah.
all the innocence and goodness of Dorothy and turn her into the kind of whiny brat who can't act.
No.
I had the hardest time with Ashanti because like the whole time I'm like, don't put her on the screen anymore. I'm sure she's just fine, probably a fine singer, but she's not a good actress.
But Joel, the cameos in this movie were second to, well, they were the worst. There's Queen Latifah, David Alan Grier,
Yeah.
Kelly Osbourne, who shows up for a joke where
Kelly
they
Osbourne.
say, "You've been reborn," and she says, "Correction, you've been Osborne."
my kids literally turned to me and said, "Is that supposed to be someone famous?" And I said, Not really.
Oh, and Quentin Tarantino for some reason.
Yeah. There's a whole 5-minute sequence of Quentin Tarantino pitching to Kermit how violent he wants this movie to be.
Yeah.
But he also can't be too violent when the things he's saying. So it's like he's being very guarded.
I think he was told that this would be really funny. And he's like, oh, I'm going all in.
Which it really was a waste.
Not enough F words.
Also, well, speaking of that, this is really adult because Kermit, they're talking about... they're looking for girls with talent, and they ask about a certain video series.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a really 2000s reference. That's gross.
That reference went a little wild for me because I went, no,
Precisely.
not in a Muppet movie. How dare you? And there was a Napster reference and there was a Passion reference as well. Which
Passion. Whoa, that's a throwback. Yeah.
It was really weird. And then this one also bothered me because they used a lot of CGI.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which is really dated. My kids commented on how dated, when they get to the wizard, how dated those graphics looked.
Well,
and
because they were also for TV, so they weren't super high quality.
And they could have used a puppet just as easily, but they decided to go with CG. And then oddly seductive CG for a bit there, where I was kind of like, are we okay here?
My favorite kind of CG is oddly seductive.
So this is, like I said, there's a part, for example, when Kermit the Frog, he's the Scarecrow type character.
Yeah.
He gets ripped apart by these bad guys, and it's disturbing for kids because you're watching Kermit the Frog get ripped to
in
shreds.
pieces, yeah.
And my son turned to me and said, I'm going to bring up my kids a lot because, like I said, I watched this with them as kind of get the kid perspective. He was like, he went, that got dark. And he was really concerned about it. And my little daughter was concerned about Kermit. I'm like, he's going to be fine. They used some elements from the original novel too, because they couldn't like rip off completely
the classic
MGMs. That's what it was. They're like Ruby Slippers. They're not Ruby Slippers and all that. This was bad though. Even though like they have 5 new songs composed by Michael Giacchino, who's a good composer.
Not in this movie.
I cannot remember one single song from this one.
This was a couple years before.
This came out in 2005.
Oh, so right after Incredibles. Never mind.
Wow.
Yeah,
this is, he's slumming it. This is a paycheck. This is a horrible movie, never should have been made. And the Muppets are good at adaptation.
Yeah.
But not here.
But I think and like I said, I think the reason I put the other one lower is because it felt much more dated, whereas Wizard of Oz, it's kind of
with
one of those
Ashanti.
No, but they put it in modern times. I still can't figure out why.
Yeah.
It wasn't good.
And so this is a question I'm probably going to ask for all of them, but we've talked about what it might mean. Do you think this feels like a Muppet movie?
No,
because that's
Not
the thing
really.
that the Christmas special, I still think it might not be great, but it still feels like more of a Muppet movie.
This one they
than
show up
this.
after 25 minutes, I think.
Yeah.
And you're like,
So this is-
the
this is
Muppets
not
are
a
here.
very
We
Muppety
should
movie.
clarify, most of these are on Disney Plus. Are most of them?
Only
No.
half,
half
actually.
of them.
Yeah.
But like I had to go to the library for a couple of these because they weren't just available.
I had to
anywhere.
rent it on YouTube.
Oh, I'm so
I
sorry.
spent money on some of these.
Yeah.
Go to your local library. It's free.
But then I'd have to go to the library.
Spoken like a Joel.
It's free.
There's words there, and as we found out a couple episodes ago, I don't like words.
So I'm actually okay. I debated on which one of these to put at the bottom. I'm fine either way, but I did put the other one. I
So we're
laughed
just
at
reversed on
Pepe,
this.
Pepe the king prawn made me laugh a couple times. Wizard of Oz, and I went, I will bump you up for that.
See, I watched multiple Muppet movies in the same day. So I watched the Christmas special with another Muppet movie, and I liked this one a little better.
Oh.
But just because all of the theatrical releases are just objectively better quality, I couldn't put either one of these any higher than the bottom two.
Are they objectively better quality? Because my number 8 is Muppets from Space.
Rightly
Very
so.
good choice.
We
That's
all-
the
do we all
correct
do
one.
that?
From 1999.
Ah, that's good. So yeah, 1999, July of 1999. So this actually, I just had gone away at this point on my.
I'd
religious
never seen this
excursion.
one either.
And
Yeah.
so this was a
I was
black hole movie
watching
for me.
actual film at this point.
I saw this in theaters. You did? I did, as a 9-year-old.
Well, the joke here is Gonzo is not an animal, right? It's always
Not a
been
whatever.
He's been seen as whatever.
He's always
and
been,
this
yeah,
joke
whatever.
is, who's Gonzo's family? Where's he from? And so this movie is starring Gonzo, and Jeffrey Tambor.
Yes. The problem is though is that Gonzo has always been kind of this bizarre character where he just does these random things, and Gonzo wasn't Gonzo in this movie.
He's like morose.
He was much more serious, much more grounded, and I'm like,
Right.
where's the crazy zany Gonzo we've come to know and love? And also, they're answering a question I never even cared to ask.
Nope.
Nobody really cares where Gonzo comes from. And the joke is that he's just a whatever.
Yeah, and that's
the
the whole
funny
point
part.
of it. So yeah, the synopsis: Gonzo is contacted by his alien family through his breakfast cereal, but when the men in black kidnap him, it's up to Kermit and the gang to rescue Gonzo and help him reunite with his long lost family.
Who shows up in the last 15 minutes?
Yeah, but we have cameos by F. Murray Abraham, David Arquette again, Pat Hingle, Rob Schneider, Andy McDowell, Josh Charles, Hulk Hogan, and Ray Liotta. It's a wide range of stars.
And is this the one that has the whole cast of Dawson's Creek?
Joshua Jackson and Katie Holmes, because their set was like 2 minutes away.
Yeah,
God,
they literally have a cameo with Katie Holmes and what's his bucket, just talking
Joshua
to
Jackson
about
Pacey.
Dawson.
The reason why this is bottom of the theatrical releases for me, among the reason that it's not funny whatsoever, is because the music in Muppets movies, even if it's tier 2 or 3, it's still fun. This one, they did remakes of Brick House.
Yeah. There's no original music in this.
It's all like 70s funk soundtrack.
They got rid of Electric Mayhem, and then you have like the Muppet that looks like Dougie Doug. What was his name?
Clifford?
Yeah, Clifford.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of Clifford.
I don't either.
He was like the sort of the host of Muppets Tonight, so I liked him. But
the one joke they had that I was just like, I had to write it down in my notes is "May the fish be with you," and I was so mad. So mad.
That made you mad?
Yeah, the whole movie made me upset, but I was like, why? Why would you do this? Also, Kermit said he was promoting the Muppets from 2011, so many, many years, 12 years after.
After this movie, after Muppets from Muppet in Space.
Yeah, and so he's doing a press tour in 2011. He says, with all due respect to Muppets from Space, you don't want that to be the last movie you ever do. You want to do a better one. And I was like, way to go, Kermit.
And Muppets from Space, to me, it felt like when you made a meal and then you ate it, and it was like, this is missing something. Like there was
humor.
There wasn't that whimsical magic of a Muppet movie, and maybe it was the original songs. I'm not sure.
I wish it would have been an actual like sci-fi movie, and especially even if they said it sort of in the past and stuff, it could have been so fun. This movie's lame. So I said I saw this in the theaters. I was 9 years old. This came out in 1999. You know what else came out in 1999?
The Matrix.
Everything good. And so
Everything good.
I actually fell asleep in this movie as a child.
It was your nap time.
I hated it. I was like, this is boring and dumb. But I'll tell you what. I found out something. I was doing some investigating. This movie grossed $22.3 million. But I believe that is false. Because the same week that this came out, guess what else was in theaters? American Pie and Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah. You know kids were buying tickets to Muppets from Space and sneaking into Eyes Wide Shut and American Pie. You know it.
I don't think kids could handle Eyes Wide Shut.
Friendly. No, and this was actually the last Muppet feature film to have the involvement of Frank Oz. He retired the following year, so he wasn't.
Who also said it's not the movie he wanted it to be.
No,
he knew it was.
Nobody
bad.
wanted this movie.
No, and that's the thing is like apparently they had the original writer that he had this draft up and it was good, and then the studio came back and said no, we want this. It was a parody of like Men in Black, Contact, and Alien and stuff like that. And the studio was like, nah, let's not. You're not bringing enough vision to the project here. So they fired him and got someone else, and they rewrote it. And they actually changed the ending where it turned out in the original draft, Gonzo wasn't an alien. These aliens had just been watching the Muppet Show and considered him like their leader.
Oh, that'd be way better.
Galaxy Quest.
Yeah, because then it was like the aliens, spoiler alert for Muppets from Space, the aliens show up and they're like, hi, Gonzo, we're your family. Bye.
I consider it non-canon. Gonzo's still whatever.
Well, you fell asleep, so of course.
Yeah. He still is whatever to me.
Yeah. I really consider I have written versions of my list where this was below the Christmas TV special.
Yeah.
I really don't like this movie. I never want to watch it again.
I thought it was lukewarm. Like this one was lukewarm for me.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, this is actually Pepe the King Prawn. Okay, he comes from Muppets Tonight with him and Seymour doing a whole routine. I'm Pepe. I'm Seymour. We're two of a kind.
And Seymour just disappeared, right?
He was a good addition. I like Pepe.
He killed Seymour. No, but then Pepe is one of the ones that my kids latched onto that and they love Pepe, and I find him humorous too. But they actually, the less Pepe was involved, they were kind of disappointed. Like my kids love Pepe.
The two, I think, more modern additions like Pepe and Rizzo, I think are pretty fun.
Rizzo actually has gotten less and less involved.
I think Pepe took over for Rizzo.
And Rizzo got fired because he was done by Steve Whitmer.
Yeah.
Rizzo has been fired.
But that's the thing is, like, my kids noticed there wasn't a lot of Rizzo in a movie we'll talk about later. But then, like, they make a joke about it. In Muppets, he's not used at all. And then in Muppets Most Wanted, they make a joke where he makes a joke like, you only get one line and things like that.
Yeah.
And my kid's like, oh.
All right, what do you have for your number 7?
My number 7, I think you guys are going to disagree with me on this, but I think it's an appropriate place for it. And we're getting, this is our...
Yeah, I actually want to disagree more.
Now we're in good territory.
From this point on...
No, we're not.
I'm in good because I put Muppet Treasure Island here at number 7.
What?
That's way wrong.
That's way too low.
No, Muppet Treasure Island is... It's... How can I put this? It is a line drive right down the middle. Nothing overly exciting.
You know
or
what that
great
does,
about it.
Joel? You know what that does? I know you don't know sports. That wins games.
Is it get on base?
Just get on base.
That's fine. And they get on base, but they don't get to home. Because...
yes, they do with Treasure.
No, here's the thing. Tim Curry as Long John Silver...
Amazing.
Is great.
So great. Chewing the heck out of that.
Exactly.
He is chewing
He's
the scenery
awesome.
and savoring every
For
bite.
a Muppet movie, perfect.
It's fun to watch. But the rest of the cast, it's good. But Tim Curry is the thing to watch here. And I give this an above average score. Like, I like this movie. But I just felt like the jokes weren't as witty. The songs weren't as memorable.
This isn't a joke movie, though.
Cabin Fever. You don't like
Cabin
that song?
Fever. It's fine. I liked it.
Right. This is not a jokey movie. This is a straightforward adaptation. This is Wishbone for Muppets.
I love Wishbone Muppets.
Good
And
reference.
So when we talked about planning the show, Zach's like, I'm actually kind of a fan of Muppet Treasure Island. And in my head I went, I don't think I've ever seen that one, but I think I purposely avoided it. So when I watched it, I devoured this movie. It is one of the best Muppet movies.
Oh, what?
Yep, it's my number 4. So your number
Wow.
7 is my number 4.
Zach, where'd you put it?
Number 3.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think this one's really fun.
But the problem is I like
love
all
it.
these movies at this point, so it's not like I'm
So,
going to be upset.
In this movie, you have Discount Jonathan Brandis, who is
Yes.
playing the Hawkins character, Jim Hawkins.
I almost said Stephen Hawking. So that would be a completely different movie.
Right. Brian Connolly shows up. This one has a lack of, and I would say the adaptations have a lack of cameos.
Mm-hmm. Because they're doing a story. They're trying to tell this specific story. It's not about the jokey.
It's not about cheering Kermit up like the other movies are.
Yeah.
And I think you get more of a meta thing because, there's these Muppets or these characters moving through the world, oftentimes traveling.
Right.
So you can run into characters.
Also, it's about, I think it's over an hour until they show Miss Piggy.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is maybe my number 1 because I hate Miss Piggy.
Piggy has her place.
Miss Shakalaka. Shakalaka.
Careful. I was going to say Disney actually they had legal action against them because they named one of the characters, the pig characters, Spam.
Oh.
And so Hormel got after him about that.
but Joel,
to which he said, I was going to say, the trial lawyer said, one might think Hormel would be welcome to the association of a genuine source of pork.
Oh, wow.
Spam slam!
Spam slam.
I like Spam.
But Joel, didn't you like the original Muppet characters they created for this movie? Like the pirate at the beginning, the blind pirate. I thought was really creepy.
He
It
was awesome.
It's
How
almost
he
like
thought
Dark
Jim,
Crystal-esque.
He thought Jim Hawking was a girl.
yeah.
No, that's the thing is, I like this movie. I'm not going to bash on this movie because I liked it. It just, there's other ones I like more. Tim Curry actually spoke highly about his role here, saying it was one of his favorite roles he's ever played was Long John
Yeah,
Silver.
can
and
tell
he's done
he
some
was
amazing roles.
He was having a blast.
He
with
was.
this
He was
movie.
having such a good time. I just feel like, by the way, Sir Billy Connolly took pride in being the first person ever to die in a Muppets movie.
Oh, you're right.
Because they don't deal a lot with death in Muppet movies, but he does.
Dead Tom's dead. You shot him.
Dead Tom's always been dead. That's why he's
And then
called
he just
Dead
drops
Tom.
the skeleton on
Also,
the ground.
this was the final Muppet movie to get a Drew Struzan poster, which I love Drew Struzan.
Which he does
did all
the
Indiana
really
Jones,
clever
and classic
animated
ones.
or drawing.
Amblin and
this,
whatnot.
This
Yeah.
movie poster actually is like unironically awesome.
Yeah.
One thing we haven't talked about yet. How did you guys feel about, speaking of meta, the fact that the entire time while they're on this voyage to get treasure, all of the rats are having a Caribbean cruise?
That was funny.
I was laughing every time.
Yeah, because Rizzo doing his whole thing, his scheme on there. Well, okay, so once Jim Henson passed away and Kermit could no longer be like the center point, they really did turn to Rizzo and Gonzo as like the new hosts of these movies, as it were, which is fine. But, and I do like the rapport with one another, but they're not Kermit.
No.
Kermit
became a noble character.
Right.
I mean, you think about the
and Fozzie wasn't funny either.
Yeah. No. Well, you think about the adaptation.
In this movie, no.
Yeah.
No, he's Mr. Bimbo.
Yeah.
In his finger. But Kermit becomes the Smollett. He's the captain of the ship. He's a noble character. And even in Christmas Carol, he's Bob Cratchit. He's a noble character, but not in the action like he was in the other movies.
Yeah.
This
not
may
breaking
be
fourth
the
wall.
best adaptation of Treasure Island.
I really like that live action Disney one, though.
Come on, Treasure Planet.
Yeah, I stand by it.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's move to my number 6.
Let's do it.
My number 6 is Muppets Most Wanted.
Okay.
Where'd you guys put it?
Also, my number 6
Also, my number 6.
Wow. So here's the funny thing.
came out 2014.
2014. And I went into this movie expecting it to be number 7, number 8, down at the bottom.
Same, because I remember when we talked about this when this movie came out.
Yeah,
and
we
we
were
were so
working together.
jazzed after that redo that they did in 2011
the soft
that when they
reboot.
announced the sequel and we went and saw it, it was so awful.
Well,
At the time, so disappointing.
And my initial review of this movie said this feels like a studio-driven cash grab.
And they called it.
And
Like, they know it.
But that's just it. So then watching this one again with my kids, I actually went, okay, let's watch this. It's the last one. This is the final Muppet movie that's been made. Let's just finish the series together, kids. Whatever. And then I was watching it going, well, that that's kind of funny. Right at the beginning, they say they're singing a song about we're doing a sequel, and they say everyone knows the sequel's not as good. And I went, that's
funny.
They're referencing
But then
themselves.
it's funny because they're singing about the sequel, and then Bunsen actually mentions, actually, this would be the 7th sequel that we've done.
Yeah. And so, like, I kind of went into it, like, arms crossed, like, I'm not going to like this. But as it went on, I went,
It still doesn't have the magic that 2011 had. Because even like Jason Segel and Amy Adams, they couldn't cast them in this movie. They just had their backs in the movie.
They had stand-ins.
And it just borrowed a lot of the magic from that movie. And I'm calling it magic.
Yes.
And kind of reheated it.
You're calling it magic. I'm calling it heart. I feel
There
like
you go.
the original Muppets had heart. This didn't have heart, but it had humor. And I found
And a lot of
myself-
songs.
And a lot of songs. And a lot of good songs. I have listened to this soundtrack.
Solid, yeah.
In since we started doing this challenge, I've listened to this soundtrack more than any of the other Muppet movies. And
Really? Even over the 2011 one?
My kids and I are walking around singing songs, just singing.
The
things
interrogation scene is very good.
I like that one, but it was more what's the one we sing all the time? It's that I give you everything you want, I give you everything you need.
That one is a fun song.
Because it's Flight of the Conchords.
Yeah.
It's Brett McKenzie writing the song, and I can totally hear it being a Flight of the Conchords song.
Yeah.
By the way, we should back up. Muppets Most Wanted. While on a grand tour, the Muppets find themselves wrapped into a European jewel heist caper headed by a Kermit the Frog lookalike and his dastardly sidekick.
Constantine.
Constantine. My
Hear me,
kids hate
Gabriel.
it when I talk like Constantine.
I hate Constantine.
What?
I hate that whole angle.
I was annoyed when I first saw it, but
Yeah.
this time through, I was laughing my head off at some of the things he was saying. I
Yeah.
don't know why it worked for me this time, but it totally did.
I do love that in the Muppets 2011 they introduced Walter, the new Muppet.
Yeah.
And in this movie he leaves the Muppets at one point, but he becomes a central character. And then like Walter left the Muppets, we did a whole movie about him. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's funny.
By the way, this features cameos from Ricky Gervais. I guess not cameos. Stars Ricky Gervais, Ty Burrell, and Tina Fey, but cameos by Tony Bennett, Hugh Bonneville, Jermaine Clement, Sean Diddy Coombs, Celine Dion, Lady Gaga, Zach Galifianakis, Josh Groban, Selma Hayek, Tom Hiddleston, Frank Langella, Ray Liotta, James McAvoy, Chloe Grace Moretz, Saoirse Ronan, Danny Trejo, Stanley Tucci, Usher, and Christoph Waltz.
So a lot of those are like throwaways at the very, very end.
Yeah.
Where they're like frozen up against
the
a wall.
CG Siberian wall is
it
the
was
worst.
horrible.
No, the ending was bad. That was bad. But
was
all those
awful.
characters have showed up previous in the movie.
Yeah, in some way.
Like
so
we're doing the sequel line, for example,
Yeah.
there's a line where Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga say one line where they're like, throwaway one-liner cameos. They sing that, and that's their line.
And they're funny, and they've been a thing for a while.
My feeling why this is on the back half of my ranking is that it's 20 minutes too long. This is the longest Muppets movie. You can even find an extended cut on Blu-ray, which sounds gross.
Yeah.
Like this is an hour 47, and I think if it cut 20 minutes, it'd be a really tight, funny movie.
Yeah.
Ken, you brought up a point that I would like to make. I think every Muppets movie is 20 minutes too long.
I agree.
Oh, no,
every single Muppet movie
Because
is
none
20 minutes too long.
of them end really well. I'm just going to put it right
I
out
wholeheartedly disagree
Okay.
with you two right now.
Yeah, every time I'm like, wow, this movie's still going. Even like Treasure Island, I remember the middle of it. I'm like, oh, is it still going on?
Oh,
there. Yeah,
still
because
there.
Miss Piggy showed up, and you're like, ah,
bunch
Yeah,
of
come on.
Scrooges.
It was actually just before they actually meet Miss Piggy. I was like, oh, here we go.
Well, by the way, the first cut of this movie ran 2.5 hours.
oh,
So
my
I think
goodness.
aside from length, though, again, I think every Muppets movie is 20 minutes too long. This movie has one glaring flaw, and it's called Tina Fey.
Yeah.
I'm okay with Tina Fey too. Like her
horrible.
Big House song,
She
I
thinks
enjoyed.
she's so funny, and she's not.
I enjoyed her much more this time than I did the first time
Yeah,
I saw
The
it.
scene, the chorus line scene in the prison, which by the way, all the prisoners are hilarious. Like
Yes.
it's Danny Trejo,
Jermaine
and
Clement.
Yeah.
Jermaine Clement, and Ray Liotta.
Yeah.
like all these awesome
Ray Liotta's second cameo, by the way, he was in Muppets from Space.
Yeah.
I think it was.
So,
He tries
they
to forget.
do the opening scene from a chorus line, and
Yes.
it's great
had
until
to explain
until Tina Fey talks.
I had to explain that to my kids. No, I'm okay with Tina Fey. Like the scene where she's like, turn off the lights. And then they turn off the lights and all of a sudden she trips. And she's like, no, turn them back on. I wait till I'm out of the room. Then turn off the lights.
Which was
that
ruined by
made
the
me
trailer.
laugh.
Yeah.
I forgotten the trailer so long ago. I laughed at it.
Yeah.
I think it's a funny movie. And I gave it a second chance. And I'm so glad I did because this would have ranked so much lower for me just if I would have done
Same.
it on my own. But watching it again, I'm like,
I gave it a C in my second ranking, probably a D the first time I
I
saw
liked
it.
Ty Burrell. I thought he was pretty funny.
Yeah,
like
he was funny. All the
Ty
vacations.
Burrell is in Interpol.
thank you,
and
Muppets. No more questions.
Sam Eagle
And
is in
Sam
CIA.
got a way bigger role than he ever has
Yeah.
before, and
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. I thought the vacationing Frenchman joke got a little old.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I enjoyed it.
Did you like the big badge joke?
That was funny.
The measuring badges.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I give it. If you didn't like this one before, I encourage you giving it a second shot. Let's go to our number 5, our top 5. Starting
number
with
5.
the definitive ranking of this Muppet movies. My number 5 is The Muppets Take Manhattan.
Number 5.
Yeah, where'd you guys put this
Number
one?
7.
I also put it at number 7, and I don't really. I would consider putting it lower.
It's the worst of the classics.
I feel like it's the most dated of the classics.
Yeah, I agree.
It's weird how the other movies were made before, but this one feels dated. I think it's Miss Piggy's hair, honestly.
Please read the synopsis if you possibly can.
Kermit and his friends go to New York City, get their musical on Broadway, only to find it's a more difficult task than he anticipated. And this is directed by Frank Oz, who did Little Shop of Horrors, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, Dark Crystal. That's all Frank Oz.
Yeah.
So this one
he does a lot of weird movies.
like the initial Muppet movie is about them trying to get a movie. This one's about them trying to get a Broadway show.
This
Same
one,
basic
it
story.
feels like Arrested Development season 4, where they're like, "Hey, we can't afford.
That's harsh.
We can't afford all the Muppets, so everyone go do your own thing." Kermit, you're going to star with this girl that works in a cafe.
You
This
had a
diner.
crush on Jenny when you were younger. Don't
Yeah, but
deny
watching it now, I'm like, I am so bored of this plot.
But think about it. That's the last thing you want for your Muppets. It's like, hey,
Fosse
we put
is
everybody
hibernating.
together. Yeah, we put everybody together to do this cool show.
Together again.
What should we do? Oh, let's split you up literally across the entire country.
Okay, so I guess I get the comparison of season 4 of Arrested Development because
Yes.
I thought you were comparing it comedy-wise, and that's not fair. But yeah,
No, it's
splitting
not
apart,
funny either.
that was a little...
Although there is a funny part because the doctor is checking on Kermit because he has amnesia, and she checks his arms and legs.
I
She
like
goes,
that scene.
"No doubt about it, you've got amnesia."
His what are they called?
Reflex.
Thank you. His reflexes are slow, and so that's why he has amnesia.
Yeah.
I remember watching this as a child, being very stressed out about
Yeah.
Kermit having amnesia.
Yeah.
Working with Bill and Gil.
Me too.
And Jill. And I was like, he's going to stay working with him. He'll never rejoin the Muppets.
Like when
My
my
name's
kids,
Bill.
and I did the same thing, when they're sitting like a booth apart from each
Yeah.
other and they're not finding each other, my kids are like, they're going to miss him. They're going to miss
Is
him.
that so funny?
But it is, as a kid, it stressed me out. And as an adult, I'm like, this is kind of serious for a Muppet movie. Like kind of not as jokey, not as crazy, and intentionally so. After the Great Muppet Caper kind of came out and it was a little too crazy, they said, tone it down. Let's get a little more
Make
story
it
in
boring.
here.
And actually, let's
little
make
more.
this a tier 3 movie and introduce the Muppet Babies.
Which we love the Muppet Babies.
How many people are in your head right now? Because I hate the Muppet Babies, remember?
Everyone loves the Muppet Babies.
Not I.
When your room looks kind of weird and you wish that you weren't there.
I
Sing along.
I haven't seen it since I was a kid. I watched it as a kid, and I won't watch it
Yeah,
as an
you
adult.
were dumb as a kid, Zach. Not you specifically, kids.
I'm not so great as an adult either.
No, you're pretty good now.
They have rebooted. There's a new Muppet Babies series out.
Oh, why
but
waste time?
I don't know. It's not as good. But let me just share a quick moment from this movie. So the girl who played Jenny, Juliana Donald, said that they were out in the park doing the jogging scene, and like Jim Henson's out there with Kermit.
You mean with the full-size piggy on skates?
Yes. If that was chasing after you, Zach, would that not freak you
Oh,
out?
it'd be horrifying.
But like they were filming and then they were delayed by a camera problem. And so Jim Henson's just sitting there with Kermit ready to go. And this kid walked up and just starts talking to Kermit. This kid who wasn't part of the scene, he's just in the park. And he starts talking to Kermit, completely ignoring Jim Henson.
Yeah.
And Jim Henson just starts talking to the kid. Well, Kermit starts talking to the kid.
Yeah.
And then this group of kids comes around and he just starts having this whole conversation with this group
I
of
bet
kids.
it's so sweet.
It is. It's one of those moments where I'm like, kids really do
They
love
should have
the
filmed
Muppets.
that to actually make this movie watchable.
It's watchable.
No, this is like Jason Takes Manhattan. Like you put Take Manhattan in any title,
you take that back.
put Take Manhattan in any title, and it's a bad movie.
I can't hate this one though because it is like that part of my childhood, and this is the last film that Jim Henson and who's the other one?
That's a bad way to go out.
No, it's not. And Richard Hunt, he also passed away as well. But it's just this is one where I feel like it's weird because it's a little more serious. They never break the fourth wall in this one. But like the scene in the kitchen with the rats is one I remember always. The Muppet Baby scene made me laugh.
Together Again is a great song.
Peoples
It is.
Together
Again.
Good opener.
Peoples is Peoples.
Yes. Together Again is like one of the better songs.
One of the better
in all
Muppet
of
songs
them.
out there.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I love the ending with all the Muppets and Sesame Street characters all together. That was so fun for me as a kid.
And
to
they're
see.
getting married, but they didn't
Somebody's
really.
getting married. Well, she got a real priest. But then later movies, they say they didn't get married.
Yeah,
So
they
con-
canon. They're not married.
continuity. I don't get it quite.
And they
but-
broke up in 2015
With that series, it didn't really go anywhere.
on the Muppets, which tried to be 30 Rock and was horrible. Yeah.
I didn't watch that one.
Yo, 30
don't.
Rock is horrible. You're
It's-
right, Zach.
Stop that.
No, the Muppets. If you find it on Disney Plus and you're looking for the Muppet Show, please don't watch the Muppets. It looks like an Office logo. It's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
So, Joel, we're going to be relatively close here on your top 4.
Right.
But I think like the top 2 will probably decide where the anger lies.
I can already tell Zach's not going to get happy here because I'm putting Muppet Christmas Carol at number 4.
Okay.
Because I'm assuming Zach is going to love all
I have
of it.
Muppet Christmas Carol at number 5.
What?
Yeah, I have it
I
lower.
thought this was going to be like your favorite.
Nope. It's good, but it's not. But if you have to judge it on the Muppet scale, and it is, of all of this list, the least Muppety movie.
This is the best Muppet movie.
What?
Because Kent's saying it because it's not the Muppets. This is
And you're saying that because it's
Michael Caine.
Because
Michael
it has-
Caine.
because it has Michael Caine, who was in Batman, so it has a Nolan connection.
So
this
it's
is his
basically a
number
Nolan
one.
movie.
It's true.
Yeah.
They're messing with time. This is a Nolan movie.
So the reason
You're number oneing this.
number one, and I'll tell you why, because I did grade each of these as I rewatched them, but I said, okay, which movie would I rewatch a lot? And we'll get to the other movies as well. And I could be like,
Well,
I'd rewatch this every 2 or 3 years. I would rewatch this one every year and not be mad about it.
Well, because let's get the synopsis
I
first.
do.
Yeah.
The Muppet Christmas Carol is the Muppets doing Christmas Carol.
Yes.
There you go.
But is it though? Think about it. That's actually
100%.
I ranked this movie a little bit lower. I think it's a great movie. It's probably one of the better, like the best movies on this list.
Here's why it's
but
good,
it's
though.
not a Muppet movie.
So Gonzo plays Charles Dickens, right? And he's got Rizzo with him as well.
He knows the
and
story like the back of
is
his
not,
hand.
Kermit is not like, oh, I need to save the theater. Kermit is Bob Cratchit. They're playing characters. Once again, it's Wishbone.
Yes,
right?
which I love.
And Michael Caine, and I could praise, like we talked about Tim Curry, Michael Caine loves the work he
not
did.
only
Michael Caine said, I'm going to play this straight.
And
I'm going to play this as if there's no Muppets around me, and I'm going to do BBC drama.
And he does it well enough to not only be good in a Muppet movie, he's arguably one of the best Scrooge performances
He
ever.
might be the best Scrooge performance, even when he says, "Mother always told me never eat singing food." Michael Caine says that, and it's believable.
It works every time.
And not only that, but you have these new Muppets introduced with the Ghost of Christmas Past, Present, and Christmas Yet to Come, and they're fantastical. They're scary,
Yeah.
and it's amazing to watch. And yes, this is the least Muppety.
This is
movie.
a Jim Henson-y movie.
This is the best
not a
movie,
Muppety movie.
with the Muppets
Without
though.
Jim Henson's involved.
But I'm just saying it's more of a Jim Henson Productions type of
Well,
movie.
they originally had it as like, Piggy was going to play this character, this ghost, and
Right.
Kurt was going to play this ghost, and they went, no, we need to create these original Muppets to give this more believability.
It does.
That sounds.
Admittedly, it does support the story much better.
Come in and know me better, man.
I love Christmas Present. He's awesome. Christmas Future is scary.
Yeah.
And I think I may have said on multiple occasions, like the lamp, not the rat, like the lamp, not the rat. When we
For
keep
me,
lighting
it's
candles.
funny and it's tragic, and it treats kids smarter than they might actually be.
And, the DVD cut that cuts out that dumb song that the girl sings is so much better.
Whoa. There's people who love that song.
I hate it.
There's
so
fan
much.
clubs out there for Where's
I had
Love.
the VHS and we fast forwarded it every single time.
I feel bad for that actress, though, that she got this amazing, solo. And then they're like, yeah, never mind. Cut it out of the movie.
Well, if she was better at it, then maybe she wouldn't.
So, Joel, you still like this one? It's number 4.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not top 3.
Well, because there's...
What's holding it back?
Well, I was going to say, first of all, this was the movie when I went, that's not Kermit. Like, the voice did not match.
Okay.
And that pulled me out a bit.
Oh, and it was the first movie with Steve Whitmire.
Well, and also I was 12 at the time, so I was going to be a little bit, more like, I'm not, Muppets. They're
But
for
how much
kids.
exposure had you had to Christmas Carol at that point? Like, other than Mickey's, right? I mean,
Mickey's
this is a
Christmas Carol was a lot
relatively
of it.
new thing, and it's a deeper story.
That's actually a fair point because I really enjoyed Mickey's Christmas Carol. And so when this came out, I was kind of like, it's not as good. It's a little bit, it's 20 minutes too long, as you guys
Yeah,
say.
it might be.
This is not 20 minutes too long.
No,
I was wrong.
this is fantastic. This is a fantastic movie, and I think it is.
Yeah.
And as weird as it sounds, it is one of the most true to the original work of Charles Dickens.
Yes.
Like they're pulling direct quotes out, but they just happen to be said by Gonzo and Rizzo.
Oh, just kidding. The song that girl sings is 20 minutes. Never mind. It's 20 minutes.
Oh, God.
But yeah, it's an appropriate amount of Gonzo. He got a highlight here, and for some reason they ran with that with Muppets from Space. But I could rewatch, I will rewatch this one every Christmas.
Yeah.
This
It's a
probably
classic.
would have done better in the box office because it did okay.
Yeah.
But it was competing against Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, and Disney's Aladdin.
Oh,
What a
okay.
year.
So this
Yeah.
was a hard
I love it. The Fezzy wig is the character, and so it's Fozzie wig.
Yeah.
That's a home run.
Waka
and
waka.
this was one, just to give my kid perspective again, my son was so concerned about Tiny Tim because they don't pull a punch there.
Robin.
Yeah,
Robin the
they
frog?
basically they show that, no, he died. Sorry,
Yeah.
kids. And my son was so concerned, and we're like, it's going to be okay.
They
It's
handle
gonna
that
be okay.
very well.
Yeah.
It's a very dramatic scene with a luckily very restrained Piggy and Kermit. That's a really good dramatic turn by the Muppets. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Least annoying. for sure.
Yeah.
But it is, I was going to say, I really enjoy this one. I'm not going to bash on it because I thoroughly enjoyed it. It just didn't make my top 3.
I think this is amazing, and it only is my number 5 because I went on a technicality and said this just isn't as Muppety a movie.
See, I think you already have the Muppet Show from the 70s, right?
Yeah.
And the other movies, well, many of the other movies, they're just extensions of the show, and it's more of the same. This one feels different. It feels unique and necessary. It is.
It is different.
Prefer Wishbone Muppets. I prefer Muppets in stories. I actually have a tradition personally.
I love that Wishbone is the standard for adaptations.
I have a tradition personally where every show that I'm cast in, every musical that I'm cast in, I Muppet cast that show. So I'm backstage talking to the other actors. I'm like, okay, now let's take our main actors in this show. Okay, what would Kermit play? What would Fozzie play?
Waka!
So like Baconsale, for example, I'm
Go
not
ahead,
going to answer that question.
Yeah.
No, go for it, Zach.
Judge away, Zach.
I'm Kermit and nothing else matters. Move on.
Oh, you were Scooter for sure.
No, can I be the Swedish chef?
No, everyone wants to be Swedish Chef.
That's a question. You bring up a good question, though. What Muppet would you want to be versus what Muppet do you think people think you are? I'll tell you, I've always kind of wanted to be a Kermit, like that kind of a little more, the leader type.
Everyone wants to be Kermit.
I don't think you're insecure enough.
But people see me as more of a Fozzie.
You're Fozzie.
I see you as Fozzie.
See?
Yeah.
I don't see that.
See, I would always want to be Ralph, but I don't have the talent behind it.
I see you as Statler.
I knew it. I knew
Yes.
You are both of them.
And you would say that.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I have the brains of two people.
I like to organize things. So Scooter has always been
You're
one
a
that I
Scooter.
like.
Yeah.
Just don't call me Gonzo, okay?
No, you're not.
I don't think I'm Mr.
Okay,
Gonzo.
No, thank
But
goodness.
none of us have a crush on chickens. Also, the thing about the Muppet Christmas Carol is I don't feel like the songs are as strong.
What do you mean?
They're
You
good.
don't love that moment?
They're good. My favorite song, though, in the entire movie is Heat Wave. Oi! This is my island in
Just
the
that
sun.
jump in.
Oi!
That's
Yeah.
so funny.
That's
Yeah.
the part that makes me laugh. But let's give my top 3. The
Let's do it.
definitive top 3.
And looking at the list, I mean, aside from the number 1, we're going to be pretty close on here.
Yeah.
Okay.
My number 3 is The Muppets 2011. A Muppet fanatic with the help of his 2 human compatriots must regroup the Muppet gang to stop an avaricious oil mogul, that's hard to say, from taking down one of their precious life-longing treasures.
Maniacal laugh.
This is one where, I mean, the Muppets had been kind of out of favor for a while. The last Muppet movie theatrically was Muppets in Space with 1999. And I don't think they even acknowledged that. So we're going back all the way back to like Muppets Take Manhattan, which was 1984. Because they kind of they basically say Muppets haven't been around for a long time.
In my mind, there are 5 Muppet movies.
Yeah.
It's like the original 3 and then the 2 modern ones.
Yeah. And that would do the same kind of thing. But then also, don't forget about Christmas Carol and Treasure Island.
But those are like them doing their, it's like they're at their job.
This is a movie that if there was no history of Muppet movies, there was only the Muppet Show, and Jason Segel's character was inspired by the Muppets, and Walter having watched it back in the day. This is the only movie that ever needs to have existed because it's a love letter to the show, not even to the movies.
But no, they do reference the movies though a couple times. Which
but it is them watching every single episode in syndication. And this movie comes out. Granted, it's my number 3, right? Like it's right there. It's number 3, but everything about this is tier 1.
It is nostalgia fueled love.
Even though it starts out with me and Julio down by the schoolyard.
Yeah.
Then it gets into original songs, and I'm like, hallelujah.
Yeah. And
because they're so good.
Stars the Muppets, and then Jason Segel, Amy Adams, Chris Cooper, and Rashida Jones. And then has cameos by Jack Black, Zach Galifianakis, Jim Parsons, Ken Jeong, Alan Arkin, Donald Glover, Kristen Schaal, Emily Blunt, and John Krasinski.
Yay.
So this one did very well at the box office.
Rightly so.
And it's because I feel like it really did hit that chord that people were feeling of like, yeah, whatever happened to the Muppets?
Yeah.
And then you see them and you're like, oh, yeah, this is why I love the Muppets. Now, in fairness, this one may have been a little influenced. My love for this movie may have been boosted by the fact that I saw it on a Disney cruise, and it was a first-run movie.
Oh, that's fun.
I saw it on a Disney cruise.
Yeah.
It was such a fun experience. But even watching it like time and time after that, it has so much heart. And I may have gotten emotional multiple times watching this movie.
Yeah. And Amy Adams, I mean, teaching class, and she's fixing a car in class.
How
The bell rings, and she's like, sorry, class is over. And everyone, aww. It's so funny. And Manor Muppet is a deep song.
It is Academy Award winning song.
There were
The
only,
first Academy Award ever.
there were
the
only
Muppets.
2 nominees that year, and the other one was from Rio. Calm down.
So yeah, Brett McKenzie once again from Flight of
Yeah.
Conchords wrote the songs, and there's a ton in here that I could sing as well. I really enjoy them. This is the one, by the way, where he talked in his original song. He talked about Kermit saying, "When I was just a little piece of felt," and they're like, "Nope, you can't say that. He was a tadpole." That's the reality you have to build here.
Yeah.
What I liked about this is they talk about having issues finding a host, like a guest host, a celebrity host for the show. And actually mirrors in the show, the Muppet Show back in the day, for 3 years of production, the producers struggled to find a celebrity that wanted to be on the show until it finally just picked up steam and everyone wanted to be a part of it. And that's exactly what they did in this movie.
Exactly. It's one of those movies that you watch, and I do wonder how people that didn't watch the Muppets, if they love it as much.
Perfect introduction. I think it's the perfect introduction.
Because it reintroduced a whole generation to the Muppets. Like, hey, these guys are kind of funny.
And even if you never saw the show, you're like, oh, I can see why these 2 characters like this old show.
That is exactly sort of my story. I remember I watched this movie in 2011. I liked it a lot. I have the soundtrack. I listened to it a lot. And I really enjoyed this movie. And then I watched all the other Muppet movies and then watched this one again. And I had a
different impact.
totally different appreciation. I laughed at different moments. And actually, there's stuff in the movie that I liked less after watching the other ones. So I actually put this a little bit lower on my list at 4.
Oh, wow.
Because
Walter, right?
I don't like the Walter, but I really don't like the Mary and the Gary stuff.
What?
That's total. It's totally pulling away. You're making Kermit.
No, Muppets
Kermit
are
is the
best
4th
as side
build-
characters. Kermit is overplayed.
He's the 4th build person.
Hey
in
guys,
this movie.
let's all be friends, okay?
like it's.
How many Muppet movies have you seen where Kermit is the same old depressed frog again and again? You need an anchor point,
Sure,
and then the Muppets to be celebrated.
So that's going to be Jason Segel forgetting his anniversary.
Yeah,
that's what we're going with. No,
and helping
that's a
his
simple
brother
concept
be
that's
part
like,
of the show.
You know, it's nothing you really need to get into. You already know the concept, so it's like, okay, they're having issues. That gives me the conflict.
It feels like a secondary thing, and there's like,
It's the subplot.
especially near the end, when it's been the Muppets for a while, and then it cuts over and it's like, oh, hey, by the way, go fix your relationship, travel by map.
But it's the 2 brother conflict. One is going one way or the other.
I actually like Walter and Gary. I don't like Walter, Gary, and Mary.
How dare you badmouth Amy Adams?
She's not good in this.
How dare you?
She's not the best in this.
And especially because think about 2011, she was taking a turn toward I think she's amazing. I don't think she's very good in this. She's miscast.
This is Enchanted time. Like this is darling Amy.
She's better in
Adams time.
Enchanted. I'll say that.
Well,
when was
obviously.
Doubt? What year was Doubt? Like 2009?
That was same year as Enchanted.
This isn't the Doubt Show. Save for our Doubt Show.
I doubt you every show.
I wanted to bring this up, by the way, that this is the Muppets is I checked it, the facts. This is the highest grossing puppet film. And the first in the film series to gross over 100 million worldwide. So just so you know, here's the top 5 puppet films.
Okay.
Number 1, The Muppets, making the highest grossing. Number 2, Muppets Most Wanted. Number 3, The Muppet Movie. Number 4, Team America World Police.
Yeah.
And number
mercy.
5, The Dark Crystal.
I'm so glad you didn't say the other Muppet movie that came out a couple of years ago. The Happy Land Murders.
Oh, no.
Hate
Directed by Brian Henson.
Yeah, he really-
what a slap in the face to his father's legacy.
Because he directed a lot of these great ones, and he's like, let's try something
He
dirty.
directed Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
So
That's a great one.
by
Number
the
one.
way, Frank Oz initially disapproved of the script and thought it was disrespectful to the Muppets.
He didn't like
This
the
one.
Fozzie fart shoes.
He didn't like that at all. But
He was in Muppets from Space.
But then later he amended his statements and said, "I thought the film was really sweet and fun, a little too safe, a little retro. I prefer more cutting edge in the Muppets. But the main thing is everybody got back to appreciating the Muppets. It brought people back to the Muppets, although they never really left. It's always been kind of a subculture. It's always been there on a popular culture a little bit. So I'm happy that people are happy." Which seemed like a weird statement to say.
Yeah.
In the first 20 or 30 minutes, there were 3 or 4 laugh out loud moments for me.
Oh,
and I
Life's a fillet of fish.
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
That's my favorite part. My favorite line from it. There's the ones where they're driving through and they're like, how can we find Kermit's house? And then they see a stand that's like celebrity maps. And then they cut away.
I have an idea.
Oh, I have an idea. And then they're eating hot dogs. Oh, that was a good idea. Yeah. I laughed out loud. And I kept saying, this movie is so dumb. And I like this.
Well,
oh
you have
my
to
gosh,
appreciate
that is so
it.
stupid.
One of my favorite
but I
jokes,
was loving
One of my
it.
favorite jokes when they're doing the montage of getting everyone together, and then Rolf's like, "What about my acceptance? What did you think of that? How can you have that in the montage?" And it's like, "Hey, you want to join our show?" Yep.
The part where they just do the exact
love
same
it.
thing, and Sweetums is chasing them after they leave the
I want to
dealership.
go to Hollywood.
Poor
Not
Sweetums.
again.
Every movie.
Yeah.
There are so many. They're literally laugh out loud moments in
This
movie.
is my second most rewatchable Muppets movie.
I really do enjoy this
Yeah.
one a lot. By the way, fun fact, Small Town, where Gary and Mary and Walter are from, is the same set as Gilmore Girls.
Oh.
So look
This
for
is
that.
now number 7 on my ranking.
It's basically a Gilmore Girls movie.
Also, Walter was named after Walt Disney, apparently.
Wow.
Not sure if that's proven. It was on IMDb.
You know, it's and spoiler, I guess, for the movie, they do this huge number. They do the big rainbow connection. It's awesome.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Animal finally gets to drum after Jack Black told him not to.
That's the only
Yeah.
plot point I don't like, by
Jack
the way.
Black.
Oh,
And-
no, the animal can't drum.
Animals in anger management. Yeah, that's kind of dumb.
No, it's funny saying around, but he can't drum.
And then it's like, okay, we need to raise another $270,000. What's our final act? Walter,
Whistling.
why don't you go whistle? It's really anticlimactic.
It's great whistling.
It's great, but not the
None
final
of these
number
Muppet
is
movies
awesome.
have very good endings.
What? No,
They
come
all- they all
on.
fall apart.
No.
Just
no.
wait, Joel.
No.
Just wait.
Just wait.
yeah.
No,
I love them.
Don't you?
All right.
What's your number 2, Joel?
My number 2 is
I can tell where Kent's going, and I'm mad at him.
my number 2 is the Great Muppet Caper.
Number 5.
How dare you? Where is this for you, Zach?
Number 1.
So the
My
what?
favorite Muppet movie. I love.
I have no problem with that because growing up,
Yeah.
the two probably most watched cassettes in our household were the Great Muppet Caper and the Muppet Movie. We'd switch them back and forth.
Yeah.
And the Great Muppet Caper, here's the synopsis. Kermit the Frog, the Great Gonzo, and Fozzie Bear are reporters who travel to Britain. Sorry, I just laughed because the whole Kermit and Fozzie being twins thing.
That's
love-
the best
that is
running
such
joke.
A funny gag.
Isn't their dad like a green bear?
To interview a rich victim of a jewel thief and help her along with her secretary, Miss Piggy.
Just I've literally cracking up thinking. It's like, oh, you don't recognize him because he doesn't have the hat on. And then he puts a hat on. And
Bears
they're like,
wear hats.
Oh,
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Starring the Muppets and then Diana Rigg, which if you don't know, Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
No,
She-
no. She is James Bond.
I know, no,
wife.
the-
Or the
She's
Avengers.
Tracy Bond.
She's also the Avengers, the old Avengers series, the British one.
Yeah, the
but
good
like
one.
for those people who like watched Game of Thrones and really loved Lady Tyrell.
Yes.
Lady Tyrell.
Yeah.
That it's like this is Lady Holiday. It's funny to me. Charles Grodin. Also, you get cameos by John Cleese, Peter Falk, Jim Henson, Frank Oz, and a bunch of British actors that you don't know.
Yeah.
Because this was filmed over in England. This is also a big financial success as well, although not as big as the Muppet movie.
I found it so tedious, though. The whole, and I know this is the whole plot of the movie, but Piggy being accused of stealing the diamonds, and she has like a 20-minute long music scene underwater.
I love it.
I
that
find
scene's
it so
amazing.
boring.
From puppeteering, it's fantastic.
and it's clever when they have it like going in reverse so she can come out of the water all
Yeah.
dry. It's so cool.
Yeah, I got real bored in this one. It's a
that
better
has the
Muppets
Charles
Take
Grodin
Manhattan.
singing.
Yeah, I know. That was
All the
pretty great.
world ever wanted was you.
And doesn't she-
a dream come true.
Doesn't she make fun of that as well in the movie?
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
she's like,
was dubbed.
but I just love his performance is so bad, but it's on purpose bad.
Oh, it's- yeah.
oh,
And also the
Piggy.
fact that he doesn't even have a British accent when he's the brother of Lady Holiday from England. But that's the fun part about it is they can be goofy like that. And I do say this all the time. Anytime anyone says, we'll catch them red-handed, inevitably I will go, what color are their hands now? Because of this movie. I watched this so many times as a kid. I absolutely love it. And this,
Full-size Piggy on a motorcycle doing a jump through the...
yeah.
so dumb.
This is the only Muppets feature film to be directed by Jim Henson. He said afterwards he wouldn't do directing and the puppeteering
Performance.
was
Oh, makes
too
sense.
much.
Yeah.
But Roger Ebert, by the way, gave this a 2 out of 4 and concluded his review by saying, the lack of a cutting edge hurts this movie. It's too nice, too routine, too predictable, and too safe. Thanks, Roger
Kent
Ebert.
Dunn, Showtime Showdown.
Exactly.
And
I
anyone
feel-
who bashes on this movie is probably as stupid as him.
I love Roger
Go
Ebert.
for it, Kent.
Next statement, Kent.
All the music here is really bland. It's C-list.
The music is not great in this one.
yeah.
I
We have
give
a
it
big,
that.
big opening number, and honestly, not
Starring
memorable whatsoever.
everybody and me.
Yeah.
I love that
I already
song.
forgot about what you just sang. Super boring.
It's a great song.
Yeah.
I already sang the Charles Grodin
There's fun
one.
hijinks, and I love like the line, hey, wake up, here come the bikinis. Oh, we better synchronize our pacemakers. Like, that gets me.
Huh, funny how he
remember that
relates
line?
to Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah,
Of course
imagine
I do.
Go for that. I loved the opening credits where they're in a hot air balloon and like mentioning that they're there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the hot air balloon. How long are these opening credits? You should see the closing ones. And the Happiness Hotel. Come on. How are you bashing on the Happiness Hotel?
Yeah.
What?
Sorry.
Well, welcome home to the Happiness Hotel.
No, I didn't really buy into it. No.
What?
I'm sorry.
How dare you?
I apologized.
How dare you? You apologize, but you don't need it.
That's true.
Oh man, I love this movie. It's one of, I was going to say, this is like almost a perfect movie for me.
And then,
almost.
Again, going back to is this a Muppety movie? I love this because they step a little bit away from the whole.
Well, they're telling a story here.
saving a theater.
Exactly. Let's save the theater and go on a road trip. It's let's tell a different story. Let's play characters. We're meeting Piggy. I like that element
The
of
plot,
it
the
more
drags. Exactly. I
No,
agree.
with the fabulous baseball diamond.
It's 20 minutes too long.
Agreed.
No, it is not.
Everyone.
At the beginning and ending.
You mean like this episode?
Every episode of Baconsale is 20 minutes too long.
Meta commentary.
Yeah. All right. And then my number one, it shouldn't be a surprise if you're paying attention. My number one, and the definitive number one, is the Muppet movie, 1979, the original movie that kicked it all off. Where'd you guys put it?
Number 2.
Number 2.
Yep.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because I can interchange 1 and 2. Kent, you're actually wrong about Caper, but other than that, I can switch it 1 and 2. What was your number 2?
My number 2 is Muppet Movie.
No, excuse me, your number 1 then.
Oh, Muppets Christmas Carol.
Christmas Carol.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
That's a good choice. I mean,
It's a great choice.
The Muppet movie, Kermit and his newfound friends trek across America to find success in Hollywood, but a frog's legs merchant is after Kermit. And it stars the Muppets, of course. Then you got Charles Durning, Austin Pendleton, and then you got cameos by Dom DeLuise, James Coburn, Madeline Kahn, Telly Savalas, Carol Kane, Paul Williams, Milton Berle. This is so 70s. Elliot Gould, Bob Hope, Richard Pryor, Steve Martin, Mel Brooks, Cloris Leachman, Orson Welles. These are big
celebrity
names.
People that
back in the
kids
day.
would never, ever
but
know.
the celebrity they are great.
But like
They
the
are.
jokes here, they've almost invented like these full circle jokes that just work so well. It's like, it's a myth. A myth. Yes.
Yeah.
That
I've
running
lost my-
gag. And they even say, he's like, oh, great, a running gag.
I've lost my sense of direction. Have you tried Hare Krishna?
Yeah.
It's funny.
So funny.
There's great lines
the
in
rich
here.
and famous contract.
Hey, they said there would be drinks on the house.
This was made between the first and second.
That's funny, right?
But my favorite part is to be like, there was a sailor who was so fat. How fat was he? He was so fat that there was nothing funny about him at all. That made me laugh every time. But of course, the reason I was going to say, I think one of the best things about this movie is the opening shot. Coming in, helicopter shot coming down in a swamp, and you get the beautiful music of the Rainbow Connection.
Without this, it would probably be my number 3. Honestly,
Oh.
the Rainbow Connection is a magnificent moment.
Rainbow Connection and Moving Right Along.
So good.
You're moving right along.
But
It's great.
Rainbow
Love
Connection,
it.
Jim Henson was literally in a tube behind the barrel in a swamp for I think it was like 3 days or 5 days or something like that. They were shooting that opening scene, and he said, "They're a puppeteer in a swamp." Really, they had the Muppets just there.
Speaking of crazy puppeteering,
And Dom DeLuise shows up.
Hollywood.
Kermit riding a bicycle. Okay, this is 1979.
Yeah.
The effect is amazing.
And you could do that very
It still
easily
holds
in a
up.
movie now, but they actually had a crane doing like mechanized puppetry.
Yeah.
And they had his like feet and hands glued to the handlebars and pedals, and you obviously couldn't see the crane or the wiring or anything, but it's amazing.
Can I confess something?
Yeah.
Please.
Full body shots of the Muppets make me very uncomfortable.
Same.
Yeah, it's just because
You
the
mean like
physics, because their physics, you
the
can
green
tell they're
screen tap
not,
dancing?
but they're not propelling themselves.
Can I
Yeah.
also tell something else? Think about talk show hosts. Don't you feel weird when you see the full body of a talk show host, like when they don't have a desk in front of them, and like they're just sitting
Yeah,
there?
but that's because Conan just needs to put clothes back on.
So you really like Seth Meyers? Is that what you're saying?
No, what I'm saying is that you always feel a little weird when you're used to seeing people in a certain way.
Or
Okay.
news people.
Hot take. This is number 2. This is a great film. The end of the movie is terrible.
How is it terrible?
Hey, Orson Welles, how's it going? You get your movie. You worked for it. And then they
that's true.
go and make a movie, and the last song is great, and it's magical.
Life is a movie. Start your own.
But it's
ending.
really dumb. It's like they kind of made it up. They went, oh, we got nothing. Okay, get to the final song. And the final song is kind of cool because they had John Landis was there puppeteering or being a Muppet performer. Tim Burton joined as well. Just all these people just came and helped out. But it really just lost steam.
No.
In the end there. Yeah,
It's a
Orson
beautiful
Welles,
ending.
like he plays Orson Welles, he has one line, yep, you can make your movie.
But that's the whole point, is that like someone will give you your shot, and it's actually kind of based on Jim Henson's career, where it's like he was farming this out, trying to get someone,
And someone was
give him
trying
a
to
shot.
steal his legs and cook
literally,
them.
like we said, Lou Grade was the one who came to him. You know what? I like this. Bring the standard rich and famous contract.
Yeah.
It's exactly how it happened to Jim Henson.
Exactly.
It's so sweet and so good, though. I love that ending. It's so well done.
Most of the Muppet endings are like, oh, shoot, we should finish this, huh?
Yeah, do we have a
No.
song? Although when you're a kid...
They're
and
meta the
sing-
whole time, and you guys are
sing
mad when they're mad at the end.
Sing Giant Animal. was kind of amazing. When
Giant
you were a kid.
Giant animal.
When he pops up and he's like, dang, like that, I crack up.
It was
every
pretty
single
dumb
time.
how they're like, they have a frog hunter, and then they do nothing with frog hunter at all.
He's there to be a menace. That's all he is.
For like a minute. Like, it's like, is that a subplot? I'm not sure.
I will laugh every time the Swedish Chef comes on. So that's mine.
Oh,
for me.
he's hilarious. No, and I was going to say, the Muppet movie really is one of those that it warms my heart every time I see it. This is a 5-star movie for me. I thoroughly enjoy it anytime it comes on. And I really hope that more people will watch it. Because I'm hoping...
You don't think everyone's seen it already?
Well, and if they haven't, that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that...
I had, but didn't know it.
I'm hoping that people, like, if you haven't watched the Muppet shows, that you'll give them a shot, like, and see the joy in them. And even if you don't have kids, but then also that, with the Muppet show, or the Muppet show that's coming out on Disney Plus, I hope people give that a shot. Because, it's hit and miss, but so's every TV show. But it's all about the warmth and the joy and the pure happiness that the Muppets have and they bring to the table. It washes away those dark Sundance days, Ken.
Yeah. And it was very necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
So there we go. So just to recap real quick, my top 10, the definitive 10. You guys can throw in your numbers, of course, but of course they don't matter because mine is the definitive one.
I'll give you some average of ours.
Number 10, It's a Very Muppet Christmas Movie. Number 9, The Muppets Wizard of Oz. Number 8, Muppets from Space. Number 7, Muppet Treasure Island. Number 6, Muppets Most Wanted. Number 5, Muppets Take Manhattan. Number 4, Muppet Christmas Carol. Number 3, The Muppets. Number 2, Muppet Caper, The Great Muppet Caper. And number 1, The Muppet Movie.
See, if we look at our averages,
Okay, let's hear
I'll give
it.
you this list. Our collective number 10 is The Muppets Wizard of Oz, then Very Merry Puppet, whatever.
Exactly. Movie. You couldn't even remember it. You gave that number 9.
It's great. Then Muppets from Space. Muppets Take Manhattan actually went a little further down that list, which was fine. Muppets Most Wanted, Muppet Treasure Island, and then our top 4 collectively, The Muppets, Muppet Christmas Carol, The Great Muppet Caper, and The Muppet Movie.
All fine.
Yep.
All fine. I like 7 out of the 10 of these movies are in my like range.
Okay.
Like or love. And then I got the 3 ones below where I'm like, ugh.
Yeah. I like 5 of them.
I'm kind of
That's
bummed.
more than I thought you would like.
Yeah.
Honestly, Kent, when you started watching these and you were giving cynical, hurtful comments on Messenger.
Well, I just realized I'm a smarter person than I was when I was a child.
Oh.
Joel, are you not a smarter person than you were when you were a child?
Apparently not, based on what you just said. You jerk.
That's not. I'm asking a question.
Kent just said, I don't like him because I'm smarter.
Well, it's just I love different things and I remember the feelings I had, but now I'm like, that's pretty tedious. Like the plot goes nowhere, but these characters, and once again, to bring it home, the characters, the Muppets, are amazing. The songs are fun. It's heartwarming. And that's what this series does. For the most part.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And what I think is the greatest part about the Muppets is the short bursts of character, the mad hap things that happen, like the craziness. And that's why actually I'm so excited to watch the show, because these movies are fun and I do like them. You have to put Muppet goggles on to watch them. They're
Muppet arms and Muppet goggles.
They're all a little too long, but
No.
that's why I'm so excited to watch the shows, because the sketches, I've watched a few on YouTube. Like, come on, guys. Phenomena. So funny, classic stuff. I love the Muppets, and I'm very happy that we went on this journey.
Well, and thank you guys for indulging me on this one. And I was going to say my final thoughts. Are we doing that? Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Is one of the things
Very
I want to point out is that we spent almost this entire time talking about these characters as if they were real characters. We didn't talk about Jim Henson puppeting Kermit the Frog most of the time. We just talked about Kermit did this, and Fozzie did this, and Piggy did this, because they do such a good job of puppeteering. And I watched this in those interviews we watched. Even when they're live, you start to believe they're real characters because they've done such a good job of creating that mystery. And that is why I think they deserve both respect and admiration, because they've created something no one else has.
Would you want to see another feature film? It's been years at this point, 7 years since the last one.
That's the thing. So it's funny how, like, between Muppets from Space in 99 to
Muppets 2011.
That's what, 12 years?
Yeah.
We're at 6 now with no Muppet movie. Well, 7 technically.
Yeah.
And it's just funny to think of how long would we go before another one. And I don't know. Maybe the Muppet Show on Disney Plus will bring another one out there. And if it is, I'll watch it.
Have you guys seen Muppets Now?
No.
So they did a new series last year.
Is that one where they broke up? Kermit and Miss Piggy broke up?
That was the Muppets. That was
Yeah, there was another one that just came out.
So it just came out on Disney Plus. It's a streaming series, and the sort of concept with it is they're doing a web series, like a YouTube thing. And Scooter didn't have time to finish it, and they got to upload it now, and that's why everything kind of rough. But it's like you do a cooking show with Chef. You have beauty tips with Piggy. You have photo bombing practice with Kermit. It's kind of weird. but it is nice to have Muppets in a more sketch comedy.
If there were to make another Muppet movie, would you guys prefer that it be an adapted story or an original Muppet story?
I think it's time for an adapted story again.
Three Musketeers.
With quality.
Ooh.
Three Musketeers Muppets
I
is
would
my
watch
number
that.
one movie that I want from this franchise.
Because I think we saw such a love letter in 2011 that I think it's time for an adaptation.
Yeah,
it's not
it is.
Wizard of Oz.
And I thought Muppets Most Wanted, I think it gets hate unnecessarily.
Yeah,
Right. If you rewatch it, it's decent.
It's a good Muppet movie. It's totally fine. There's lots of funny gags. And the fact that this is the movie that, quote, killed the franchise,
I don't think
I
that's
can't
fair.
accept that. It's we got to have another one. And yeah, like I said, I think it's time for an
It didn't
adaptation.
even bomb. It just underperformed. Like, it made
It still
money
made
back.
plenty of money.
Yeah. It was in the top 5 highest grossing puppet movies. So anyway, let us know your thoughts on the Muppets. Let us know if you love them, if you hate them, basically if you're Joel or you're Kent. And then let us know your rankings of the 10 movies if you've seen them, or give us your ranking of the movies you've seen.
Listener, just give us the ranking of your 8 movies. Don't worry about those.
don't worry
TV
about the
movies.
No, you need to
Please.
watch them.
We already
You
put
need to
them
see-
in our bottom 2.
You need
Just
to see
give
some
us the 8.
bizarre moments in Muppet history.
There are only 8.
Yeah. Well, there's only 8 theatrically released films.
All right, but before we go, we'd like to thank our patrons. So from the I'm the Listener category, we have Lady Terry Ann Finley of Wigtownshire, Sweet Bottom Cakes Jessica Drought, Sean Sanquist, Just Plain Old Kyler, Jennifer Kilkowski, Braden Winterton, Babs, Alicia Bass, Adrian Gray, Glow Clendaniel, Plot Twist Media, and Adam and Rachel Crump. And from our Bacon Council, we have Hailstorm, Chris Anderson, Ryan Farron, Stephen Ross, Mats, Her Royal Highness Jessica Terry, our favorite couple, the Madsons,
Aw.
The Shadow, and Reverse Listener. Thank you, patrons. Thank you so much.
We really
do appreciate
We
it.
love you. You make so much of this possible. Thank you.
We're going to do Muppet Arms for you. Muppet Arms! But if you want to find me, you can find me at 76Joel on Twitter. You can find me performing at QuickWits. They're performing for free on Facebook. For more details, go to qwcomedy.com or go to QuickWits Facebook page.
If you want to find me on Twitter or Instagram, it's at Kenny3DD. If you want to read my movie reviews, at ShowtimeShowdown.com.
If you'd like to connect with me, you can do so on Twitter and Instagram at Tumbling Mustard. But more importantly, make sure you're following Baconsale on social media. That's liking the Facebook page and following Twitter and Instagram at Baconsale. Stop by tpublic.com/Baconsale and get yourself a t-shirt. And also you can head over to patreon.com/Baconsale if you'd like to support the show. It starts at just $3 a month and you can get special bacon bits, which we do most of the time now.
Yeah.
There we go.
Pretty much all the
Little
time.
An extra
Bacon.
30 minutes of bacon sale, Joel.
Of us just chewing the fat.
That's right.
So until next time, thank you for listening to the show from the lovers, the dreamers, and me.
Aww.
We're talking about the Muppets. Yay!
The
Great.
propaganda has already begun.
Yes.
Hey, kids, enjoy dark versions of Batman. Yay! And then he kind of got out his adult humor at night.
He's played by Kevin Nash, who is Elmo.
Oh, that's
Kevin
weird.
Clash.
Kevin Clash.
Kevin
That's
Nash is in the WWE.
Yeah, that's right.
You have Scooter dancing in a cage seductively.
It's
weird.
weirdly adult in places. It's the Wizard of Oz with a shanty.
No,
Precisely.
No. Not
Yeah.
in a Muppet movie. How dare you?
Yeah.
Go to your local library. It's free.
Then I'd have to go to the library.
Spoken like a Joel.
It's free.
There's words there, and as we found out a couple episodes ago, I don't like words. I actually fell asleep in this movie as a child.
Well, it was your nap time.
You know, kids were buying tickets to Muppets in Space and sneaking into Eyes Wide Shut. You know what that does? I know you don't know sports. That wins games.
And this is Wishbone for Muppets.
I almost said Stephen Hawking. That would be a completely different movie.
Right. Oh, wow.
Spam Slam!
Spam Slam. You can even find an extended cut on Blu-ray, which sounds gross. Let's make this a tier 3 movie and introduce the Muppet Babies.
When your room looks kind of weird and you wish that you weren't there.
You were dumb as a kid, Zach. Not you specifically, kids.
I'm not so great as an adult either.
This is like Jason Takes Manhattan. Mother always told me never eat singing food.
There were
the
only
Muppets.
2 nominees that year, and the other one was from Rio. Calm down. Full body shots of the Muppets make me very uncomfortable. My favorite kind of CG is oddly seductive.